Nintendo! Camelot!
Nintendo has a long history with tennis games, starting way back in 1984 with tennis on the NES and continuing all the way up until modern day with games like Mario Tennis Aces on the Switch. And with such a long history, it stands to reason that they would have made some really good tennis games over the years, and of course they did. The culmination of which, in my opinion, being Mario Power Tennis for the Nintendo GameCube. Mario Power Tennis was developed by Camelot Software Planning, a studio closely linked to many Nintendo-published sports-themed games. However, in its inception, Camelot Software Planning was known as Sega Consumer Development Studio No. 4, or CD4, and as the name implies, it was a division of Sega, one of Nintendo's rivals at the time, tasked with the development of their shining series of RPGs. However, CD4, now known as Sonic Software Planning, would eventually separate from Sega in 1995, although agreeing to continue work on the Shining series for them. But that agreement would also come to an end when Sega threatened to cancel Shining Force 3 following some rough development. The game would eventually release, but Sonic Software Planning split from Sega entirely, eventually deciding to move over to Nintendo as one of their second-party developers, while simultaneously changing their name for obvious reasons to Camelot Software Planning. But getting back to the matter at hand, the first games that Camelot developed for Nintendo were a series of sports spin-offs of the Mario series known as Mario Golf and Mario Tennis, both of which would eventually release on the Nintendo 64. Nintendo was presumably very happy with Camelot's work on these games because since then they have made almost exclusively Mario sports games. Say what you will about their more recent releases, but you can't deny that Camelot was on a roll back in the N64 and GameCube days. And Mario Power Tennis, a game from that era of Camelot, is the reason we're here today, so let's get on with it, shall we? As the name implies, Mario Power Tennis is of course a tennis game revolving around many of the characters from the Mario franchise. There isn't really much to talk about when it comes to story here, but there is a cute little self-contained story in the intro cutscene that plays before we get into the game. In short, Mario and Luigi beat Wario and Waluigi in a game of tennis, eliminating them from the big tournament. Enraged at this disgrace they face at the hands of their two rivals, Wario and Waluigi vandalize the tournament bracket. This draws the attention of the robot police force that for some reason exists in the Mario universe now, and they chase the two around the stadium. Seeking refuge from the fuzz, Wario and Waluigi dive into a side room and find themselves in the presence of the evil Bowser. Bowser decides to take them under his wing, helping the two mustachioed villains gain a better grasp of the game of tennis by any means necessary. Once they're ready, the three set out to ruin the finals of the big tennis tournament. Mario and Luigi, expecting to face Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, actually find themselves face to face with their old nemesis Wario and Waluigi, who instead of getting revenge on Mario and Luigi by using their tennis training, decide to just launch bob-bombs at them while Bowser attacks from the sky. But, as you might have guessed, the three villains underestimated the Mario Brothers' tennis abilities because they're able to launch the bob-bombs and bullet bills back at them, destroying the whole stadium in the process. It's a really silly intro to the game, but it has a charm to it that you don't see very often these days. I know as a kid I really liked this little cutscene, and watching it again after all these years brought back some great memories. When we do finally get into the game, we're greeted with the classic Mario Power Tennis title screen and menu music. The title screen is just a still image, which of course looks very good, but I personally would have preferred some movement in the text or background image seeing as this is a GameCube game. It is very similar to the cover art, but at least they gave us a new drawing for the title screen. I personally believe that a really great title screen can make you super excited about playing a game, but I guess in the end you only really see it for a few moments before moving on to the main menu. Speaking of which, the main menu of Mario Power Tennis looks really nice in my opinion. All the modes and options use a shine from Mario Sunshine for the background of the icon, and I think that was a really nice touch. The background of the main menu is the Peach Dome where the tournaments take place, and we can also see Toad in the bottom left corner of the screen. Toad doesn't really do anything, he's just kind of there, but I guess at least he moves around a little bit, giving the main menu more life when compared to the title screen. Moving on to the modes, we see a total of 6 on the main menu, the first of which being Exhibition. It's just your classic versus mode where you can play with your friends locally or against a computer in a match where you pick the rule structure. You can also play some very unique games here like Ring Shot, where the goal is to hit as many rings as you can, the winner of the point getting all the points for the rings they hit plus half of the opponent's points. At the end of the game, the player with the most points wins. It's a pretty fun twist on the normal Mario Tennis formula, and I definitely got some mileage out of this as a kid. However, like most things, it is definitely not as fun by yourself when compared to playing with your friends. In addition to Ring Shot, we have Item Battle, where similar to Mario Kart, item boxes that randomly give you an item will appear for you to hit. All the items will either help you or hurt your opponent, and they make the game pretty crazy and fun to play, much like the game they got the idea from. Of course, you can also play normal matches and gimmick matches in exhibition mode as well, but they're the same as in tournament mode, so I'll talk about them in more detail there. Camelot could have just given us a normal versus mode for Mario Power Tennis, but instead they added in some really fun modes in addition to the base modes, and it really helped to add some variety to the gameplay of what some would consider the somewhat repetitive gameplay formula of sports games. Moving on to what most would consider the main mode of Mario Power Tennis, Tournament. As the name suggests, in Tournament mode you can choose to participate in a number of different tournaments, including World Open, Gimmick Masters, and the Star Tournament, which is unlocked after you clear World Open once. World Open is your straightforward tournament mode where you fight your way through a bracket of increasingly strong opponents. There are 3 consecutive tournaments in World Open: the Mushroom Cup, the Flower Cup, and the Star Cup. The goal is to clear all 3 of these tournaments in a row, but you can save and come back later if you feel like doing 3 tournaments in a row is a bit much. When you do finally manage to finish all 3 cups, you unlock Fly Guy if you were playing on singles and Paratroopa if you were on doubles. I'm a sucker for unlockable characters, and Mario Power Tennis definitely has some interesting ones. In addition to unlocking a character when you win, you also unlock the ability to participate in the singles or doubles Star Tournament based on which mode you beat. But not only that, if you beat World Open singles with a character, you also unlock that character's star form, which has better base stats than the base version. These star characters are what you face in the aptly named Star Tournament. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as the World Open, just a bit more difficult. If you beat the Star Tournament, you unlock the Ace difficulty CPU to play against an exhibition. Honestly, a pretty lackluster reward for the amount of work you have to do. They could have added in some more characters or another unlockable mode. Even something like a new main screen would have been better than a slightly harder CPU in my opinion. I guess the real point of the Star Tournament is supposed to be the added difficulty, but it didn't really click with me. The last tournament is probably the most unique of the bunch, and that would be Gimmick Masters. In the Gimmick Masters tournament, each court for the most part has a gimmick that can be activated by either player by hitting the ball to a specific location. These gimmicks are used to impede the opponent, making it easier for you to score. I was honestly really surprised at how unique each court's design and gimmick was, and that variation really made this tournament a ton of fun. In the World Open and Star Tournaments, the only real change to the court you play on is the surface, and that really doesn't have that dramatic of an effect on the game, which is totally acceptable for a base tournament, but it would have been nice if at least the background changed. All the matches are held in the Peach Dome, and that was really a little disappointing. The Gimmick Masters matches, on the other hand, take place anywhere from Delfino Plaza to Bowser's Castle. It's a really fun change after just playing in the same stadium for 9 matches in a row. The core gameplay is really fun, so of course each tournament was fun, but I probably had the most fun with Gimmick Masters. Similar to World Open, you unlock the Wiggler and Petey Piranha from Gimmick Masters by beating the singles and doubles tournaments respectively. I never would have expected to find such niche characters in a game like this, and I have to commend Camelot for putting them in here. It's really just such a fun addition, and I love these characters so much. This is probably a good time to go over the basic gameplay and controls of Mario Power Tennis, so here we go. A hits a topspin shot, B hits a slice, L and A or B performs a lunge, and R with A or B performing a power shot if the player has enough charge, the version you get depending on your distance from the ball, and the button you hit. There are also some other shots performed by hitting A and B in a particular way. A then B hits a lob, B then A hits a drop shot, and A and B together hits a flat shot. It's honestly a surprisingly deep control system for a tennis game. The amount of shots at the player's disposal makes each match different and gives you a number of different ways to deal with any scenario. Like I said earlier, the fun gameplay formula that Camelot laid out for us at a very basic level makes every match and every mode a joy to play. The last gameplay mode of Mario Power Tennis is the Special Games mode, where you can play a myriad of different games, ranging from tic-tac-toe with Shines to a straight-up boss battle with Mecha Bowser. There's definitely a lot of fun games here, but my favorite and the one that stuck in my memory from the time I played this game as a kid is the Artist on the Court game mode, where you essentially have to color in a page of a coloring book using different colored paintballs. This mode really makes you think about and use all the types of shots, so I recommend it to anyone who wants to learn more about the core gameplay of Mario Power Tennis. All the games are pretty fun and provide even more variation and a little break from the normal tennis gameplay formula. There are 3 other modes on the main menu screen, but they more or less just take the place of an options menu. Continue lets you continue a tournament, Records lets you see a variety of different records and stats about your gameplay, and Options is just options. These 3 probably could have been combined to one menu, but but I guess it does make things easier to navigate this way. I think that just about wraps up the game modes and gameplay of Mario Power Tennis, so let's move on to the visuals. Mario Power Tennis is a GameCube game, so the graphics of course look very nice. The pre-rendered opening cutscene especially looks really good even when compared to some modern games. And according to the lead designer and producer on the game, Takahashi Hiroyuki, that was due in large part to the cooperation they received from Nintendo on the game's animation. I think we can all agree that Mario Power Tennis looks great, but in my opinion the overall lack of variation in the game's settings takes away from how good it looks. Like I said earlier, the gimmick courts have a lot of variation to them, but that variation is only found in the gimmick modes, so if you're more interested in the standard tennis modes, you'll always find yourself in the Peach Dome. I'm sure there are a lot of people that will point out that the Peach Dome does have different surfaces you can play on, like grass and clay, as well as changing times of day, but in my opinion that doesn't really make up for the lack of variation in the backgrounds. The very least they could have done was allow you to play on some of the gimmick courts with no gimmicks for the World Open and Star Tournament. I mean, that would have barely required even any work at all. I really like the gimmick courts and I'm happy that they're in the game, I just want to be able to play on them more often. Think about this, if you want to unlock every star character, you have to play on the Peach Dome courts 162 times. That's just obscene in my opinion. A little more variation would definitely have been appreciated. Last but not least, I'd like to talk for just a minute about the music of Mario Power Tennis, and there are definitely a lot of good songs here. The unique songs they made for the game are all great, and so are the arrangements of other Nintendo songs, but again, we run into the issue that you don't really get to hear anything other than the Peach Dome songs because there isn't enough opportunity to play on other courts. It's sad because all the songs are really good, and in my opinion should have been featured more prominently. Some people might think this is a rather minor problem, but in my opinion, music and art are a really important part of any game, and the great work that Camelot and Nintendo did on Mario Power Tennis deserves to see more of this spotlight. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed Mario Power Tennis, and I think it's a great game. I just think it had some wasted potential when it came to variation. In my opinion, Mario Power Tennis is the best tennis game to come out of either Camelot or Nintendo since the NES, and I definitely had a ton of fun with this one. If you've never played Power Tennis before, it's playable on the GameCube or on the Wii as part of the New Play Control series. I've never played that version, but if it's anything like Wii Sports Tennis, I'll bet it's also a lot of fun. As always, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, it really helps me out. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, consider subscribing. Thanks again everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Ack out. Mamma mia! Oh my god, that was so cringe.